Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be talking about how I take care of my crawling philodendrons. This has been a highly requested video, so here we are. I'm going to do a quick 101 as to how I take care of my philodendrons, and if you guys like videos like this, please hit the subscribe button and drop a comment down below, and let's get into it. So let's start off this video by talking about this philodendron silver mame. Now this plant was an import from Aquaflora and its root system was really good, to be honest with you. It was just a little bit dehydrated, so I did stick it in some water for a couple of days and then I shoved it in soil. So here it is, thriving in soil. To be honest with you, half of my crawlers are in soil and the other half are in different substrates. And the reason for that is because substrates can get a little bit expensive, but soil is very cheap. So when you get bigger plants like this, or like my gloriosum, when it's like in an 18-inch pot that's fairly deep, it gets a little bit expensive and heavy when you're putting it in inorganic substrates. So that's why I opt for soil. Now, with that said, you have to be very mindful as to what your plant needs. So, like I had said earlier, this plant as an import did have a very good root system. I didn't worry about it too much, which is why after it was hydrated, I shoved it in soil and just let it be. And you know, after 2 months or so, it finally gave me new leaves. Now, I'm gonna show you my plowmanii. So this plowmanii actually arrived from out west, and during that time, it was fairly cold. So the leaves are a little bit floppy, but it is pushing off new growth. Now, when I did receive this plant, it had a lot of roots, to be honest with you, lots of roots. But because I had a harder time acclimating, I had a little bit of root rot, so I had to trim it back. And I prefer to acclimate my plants in moss, which is why this plant is in moss. The perlite on the bottom is just kind of like a self-watering technique that I like to do so that I can see the roots growing and I don't have to constantly re-wet my moss, but that's for a later time. The point is, is that I always look at the root system of the plant individually. So this plant needed more TLC, so I gave it moss, and because of its size, I obviously can't bag it or put it in a cabinet to increase the humidity, so moss it was. And I did put tape over top of it, one to anchor it down, but also to hold in the moisture. And now it's pushing off a new leaf. This is the newest leaf as well, and it's thriving. So this particular plant, I'm probably going to have to air layer right over here. So at some point I will put moss here and then give it a chop once it develops, you know, more roots. So now this Dean McDowell was also sent to me from out west, and it had a really good root system, but then it just wasn't too happy with me. And I think that's just because it had a hard time acclimating to its new environment. So during that time, I had actually had it in this DIY ponds, and it was doing fine, but then I noticed that the node that it had wasn't activating. So I topped it off with some moss. Now, I have found that when you top off your plants with moss, it actually helps to increase the humidity and establish more roots. I'm assuming it's just because the moss is able to hold in more humidity and moisture for the plant. So that's why I'm getting more roots. And this seems to be working for me. So I guess you can give it a try. If you see that your plant is struggling a little bit, you can just top your plant with some moss. So let's recap, shall we? Some of my plants are in soil and some are in different substrates. And the reason for that is just because I will give the plant what it needs depending on the root system. If it needs more love and TLC, I will actually give it moss. And if it's not too big, I will actually bag it. But if it's too big, I'll top it off with moss and just kind of baggy the bottom right over here and then just let it do its thing and forget about it. So now let's talk about humidity and temperature. All of my plants are currently just thriving in normal room temperature. There's nothing special about it. They're getting bright indirect light. Sometimes if I remember, I'll turn on the humidifier behind me, but otherwise it's not getting anything special. And in terms of fertilizer, I actually don't fertilize my plants that are struggling. And the reason for that is because if it doesn't have a good root system, how is it going to absorb the nutrients from the fertilizer? So what I will actually do is give it HB 101, and the ingredients in HB 101 is supposed to help stimulate the roots to grow more. And once you have a better root system, you can go ahead and fertilize your plants. But of course, please weekly fertilize your plants, because if you give it too much of a high potency in terms of fertilizer, you will find that it will burn the roots. So I hope you guys found this video helpful, and if you guys like videos like this, please hit the subscribe button and drop a comment down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!